class. It's the beginning of week 10 and we're starting the job interview segment. So in our careers course, you will see the week 10 lesson, and you will want to read the week 10 lesson, which will talk about job interviewing and what to do, what not to do. Also, it'll mention that you want to learn how to answer job interview questions using the STAR format, right? Tell a story. Here's the situation at work or at school. Here's what needed to be done. These are the actions that I took, and these were the results. Now, I've put a link in here to the Career Success Guide, of course, and the Career Success Guide is put together by our careers office, and there's a segment here on good interview skills, and they're giving you some tips here on interviewing. And they're saying, before the interview, make sure your LinkedIn profile is up to date. Make sure that you've reviewed your resume. Do some research about the company. What do they do? What do they stand for? What is their mission, their values, their goals? Do some research on the type of job that you're applying for. What do people normally make? What's the salary range? In case you get asked these questions. There are very common questions in interviews, such as, tell me about yourself. And by that, you want to tell them things that relate to the job. So you can tell a bit of personal things, but you want to make it always relate back to the skills that they're looking for in the job ad. You want to talk about how you've done projects and how you have experience and how you have knowledge for those key responsibilities and duties asked for in the job ad. That's what an interview is all about. You want to show them that you're a good fit with their company, that you believe in what their company believes in, their values, their mission statements. You want to show them that you're a good fit because you have the skills they're looking for. So you'll do the reading and the lesson on interviews, read through the Career Success Guide about interviews, common mistakes people make during their interviews, lack of preparation, arriving late, improper appearance, lack of confidence, negative attitude or lack of enthusiasm, inconsistency in what you're saying. So if you tell them, you're good at something and then later in the interview you say you're not, that's an inconsistency. Failing to listen to the questions carefully or listen to what the interviewer is saying. So the Career Success Guide uses a tool that we're going to be using called Big Interview for virtual interviews. Because we are an online course, we're going to use a tool called Big Interview. And I've posted the instructions for this assignment. And so, for example, if you were applying with your resume to the Old Navy brand associate job, I've provided an access code for you on our assignment instructions for you to come in and do the interview for the Old Navy brand associate. But if you were applying for some other job, then you will use a different code. So if I look at our assignment for the interview, you will follow this along, and you'll see on the assignment that depending what job you had applied for with your resume, you applied for one of these jobs, there's a special code that you need. And when you go over to Big Interview, when you get to this assignment, you'll go to Big Interview and you'll enter that code and you'll complete the assignment for that particular job. So there's common questions in job interviews. Some of them are, tell me about yourself, where the employer wants you to talk a little bit about your work history and kind of map that to the job, right? So tell me about yourself is not, well, I like to ski and I have a dog. It's more about the professional aspect. I have been an administrative assistant in the past, whereby I was responsible for these things. I enjoy meeting people, so I'm good with customer service. Whatever it is they're looking for, you want to speak to those duties and responsibilities that are listed on the job ad. It would be important for each of you to review the job ad again that you posted in the Dropbox for your resume, and review your resume, and review the feedback I gave you on your resume. And then in the interview, you're going to be asked 5 questions. It's a virtual interview because we're an online course, and it'll be 5 questions pertaining to that particular job. So for instance, if you want it to be the general manager at Flying Squirrel Trampoline, you should know something about Flying Squirrel Trampoline. So do some research before you take the interview. You'll use this code that's listed with the Flying Squirrel, and then you'll be asked questions about general manager position. Some common questions today might be, tell me about yourself. Why should we hire you? Why do you want to work here? So you need to know, be able to explain your skills and how those relate to the company and how those will benefit the company. The company really doesn't want to hear, I want to work here because I need money, or I want to work here because I want to get promotions. They don't care about, they don't want to hear what you want. They want to hear what you can bring them, how you can better their company, how you can fit into their team, and how you believe in their corporate culture, whatever their culture is. So looking up their mission and values and goals of the company on some of their company pages will help you speak to that. Now, there's lots of websites, and I'll give you the links for these websites, but I found this one, How to Answer 31 Most Common Interview Questions. So if we scroll down, can you tell me a little about yourself? And this website gives you a great sort of answer that you can use. How did you hear about the position? Now, you don't want to read these off word for word. It'll sound contrived that you're reading, but you want to sort of review these questions and then in your head go through how you would say that about yourself. It would be great for you to practice with a friend and have them ask you 5 or 10 questions and practice some of these. It would be great for you to practice this with the careers office advisor. You can book an appointment with the advisor and let them know that you're going to be doing a big interview, virtual online interview, and that you want to practice a few interview questions of the common interview questions. What do you know about our company? They might ask you that. Why do you want this job? Why should we hire you? So you want to have things that you can say that are not all about you, but how you bring your skill set into the company to better the company, right? What are your greatest professional strengths and what are your weaknesses? They often ask this. You don't want to say things about your weaknesses that are going to not get you the job. So you have to be careful that you don't list a weakness that is actually a skill they're asking for. So there's some good tips here, right? And they're trying to see, employers are trying to see how honest you are, how you handle difficult questions on the spot, those sorts of things. What's your greatest professional achievement? So you might want to tell a story about a project that you worked on, how you achieved it. It might be something you've done at school. Maybe you went on a global experience trip. Maybe you went on a flip. If you've done anything like those are great experiences to talk about at school that you've done. If you've done a general speaker series, if you worked with the leadership team or an ACTIS or did a competition, you want to talk about those things at your time at school. It's important to get involved at school and volunteer for events, help out with things, get in, take a trip if you can, because these are things that are going to help you tell stories in an interview and that will help you promote yourself as the best candidate for the job because you have all these experiences and this knowledge. Another question, tell me about a challenge or conflict you faced at work or at school. You could use a school experience if you have no work. Where do you see yourself in 5 years, right? Tell me something that's not on your resume is another thing that they ask, right? So where do you see yourself in 5 years? They want to know that maybe you're going to stick around with the company, but that you also have future goals. And maybe some of those goals entail growing with the company. So these are things that you want to consider before you answer that question. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Taking over your job might not be the best answer. Where do you see yourself in 5 years at some other company? That might not also be the best answer. So just read some of these sample answers to get a good guideline on, what's possible, how you might want to answer these. What's your dream job? What other companies are you interviewing with? Yeah, so these are tricky questions, right? Why are you leaving your current company if you are working? Why were you fired? What are you looking for in a new position? Ideally, you want to say the same things that the job ad is saying. So what are you looking for? I'm looking to, work with customers. I'm looking to resolve problems. I'm very innovative and creative, so I like to, make customers satisfied by coming up with, innovative solutions to their problems, but still working within the company procedures or guidelines. That might be a good answer, right? So we want to consider some of these questions. What type of work environment do you prefer? Again, what does the job ad say? You're not going to say, I prefer a slow-paced environment where I have to do very little. If the job ad says fast-paced environment, multitasker, long hours, flexible shift work, you want to say, well, I like to be kept busy. I like to keep myself busy time flows by faster that way. I like to apply myself. You know, I'm very energetic. I have a lot of energy, so I enjoy the flexibility and flexible timelines at work. What, you know, you want to speak to the job ad without sounding like you're just repeating the job ad. So it's a special skill, learning how to interview well. What's your management style? So if you applied for one of the manager's jobs, I might be asking you in the interview, what's your management style, right? So that you want to think about that. And maybe you don't have work experience, so you might want to talk about how you manage teams at school when you had to work in group work situations, how you manage projects, how you manage people, how you manage time. What's a time you exercised leadership? That's the next question. What's a time, I guess that's not worded very well, but you know, give an example of a time when you were in a leadership role. So these are questions you might get asked, right? Why do you want to work with us is a really good one too. So you want to talk about a little bit about the company and how you fit the company well. What's a time you disagreed with a decision that was made at work? And they want to see that you worked professionally to compromise and to understand the situation, that you didn't just stomp off and said, I can't get my way, I'm not doing this. How would your boss and coworkers describe you? And these are all tricky questions, right? So you want to read them over. And again, tell me something that's not on your resume. You want to tell them something that maybe about a hobby or some of your interests that maybe aren't listed on the resume, but that also would support your job goals, right? So whatever that job ad says. Can you explain why you changed career paths and so on? So there are quite a few questions. I think this one has 31. Salary requirements. You should know roughly what people in that job role make in Toronto if it's a Toronto job, and I think the 8 jobs I posted were around in the Toronto area. What do you like to do outside of work? Well, again, they don't want to hear that you're partying all the time. They give an example here, and it said you might say something like, sometimes I like to go out with friends on the weekends to have a night out. But you don't want to say, and then Monday mornings I'm usually in rough shape because I'm hungover. You don't want to say something like that. So, you know, there's honesty and then there's being too honest where it interferes with your job role. So if you tell them something that scares them, like you're always hungover on Mondays, they might feel like you're going to call in sick a lot or they can't rely on you, and then they're not going to want to hire you. Or they might feel that you drink too much. Who knows? So you want to be a little careful what you're saying, right? They might ask you silly questions. How many tennis balls can you fit into a limousine? They're just wanting to see your reaction and how you might answer that. So thinking outside the box, or your creativity, how well you think creatively. Are you planning to have children? Well, questions about family status and gender and children and nationality, religion, age, those are called illegal questions in Canada. They're not really allowed to ask you that because they might be biased that if you're having kids, you're going to be taking time off work, and so they won't hire you because of that. But there's ways to work around that. And you can say things like, to sidestep the question, I'm not really there yet. I'm not really sure. So you can say, but I'm very interested in the career paths at your company. Can you tell me more about that? And that redirects the conversation back to the interview and away from, are you having kids and what religion are you? Because they're not supposed to ask you that. Most employers will not. What do you think we could do better or differently at their company? Now, you don't want to sound like you're critiquing their company and correcting everything, but certainly it would be great to say something. It gives us an example here. How could customer service be improved, right? You could say, I've actually experienced this and this is what I noticed about your service, but you don't want to say something so negative that you sound like you're criticizing the company. Do you have any questions for us? They often ask. And yes, you do want to have a question. So have a few questions ready. You might want to ask them more about, what's happening currently in your company where innovation is concerned. Is something that you don't know or that wasn't listed on their website. Don't ask them a question that they've already told you the answer to during the interview. Right? You want to ask questions that sound insightful. You can ask a question to the speaker and say, well, I'd like to know more about how you started at the company. Maybe you can tell me a little bit about your career path and the opportunity for growth within the company. That would be a good question. So again, here's one, top 50 job interviews, and here's some. What relevant experience do you have? And there's examples of best answers. So you need to spend a little time browsing through these websites and looking at what best answers look like so that you can formulate your answers for your job interview. How do you fit with the company culture? What major challenges have you had? What did you like or dislike about your previous job? You never want to say bad things about past managers and past colleagues, even if you didn't like them. So, you want to find things that are not going to be make you be discounted from the job. You don't want to say something where this employer is going to get nervous and not want to hire you. What was your biggest accomplishment in the past? What was least rewarding about your past job? Well, if you say there was something in your past job that was least rewarding, make sure it's not one of the criteria that this job is asking for, because then the employer is going to say, well, you didn't like answering the phone in your last job. Well, this job has 50% of your time answering the phone, so why would you be applying for it? So you have to be careful with these. Why are you leaving your job? Why did you resign? Why did you quit your job? Why were you fired? Okay, so you can take some time and look through some of these. I'll give you the website with this video so that you can do that. So again, we're working on week 10 and 11. We are working on job interviews and how to interview well, giving you sample questions and sample answers, and then you're going to practice with a tool called Big Interview, and you are going to go through some of these questions, 5 questions each person, and then I'm going to watch the recording of your answers, and I am going to grade the recording of your answers. So it's pre-recorded. You will be video captured, so you do need to have a video camera on, and it will record your contact. So look at the camera as if that is the person speaking to you. Make sure that you're dressed appropriately, at least the top half of you, because that's what I'm going to see. Make sure that your background of the video is professional. So don't videotape yourself sitting in your bedroom. Don't videotape yourself on the bed. If you have a desk, you can turn it around so the wall behind you, it's always nice to put a plant behind you or a picture that's, calming, not a picture of something, odd. But again, that professionalism, right? You want to have that professionalism, or have nothing behind you. Make sure you have some light on your face so you look good. So you can look at also, there's some tips about good video interviewing and sort of the setting. And I'll see if I can find a website on that and post it as well. Okay, good luck everybody. Thank you.